Welcome back, guys. Will Robinson here from Robinson's Auto, toolsandtime.com. A little under the weather this week. However, we got ourselves a no start, so I figured I'd just throw up the camera and take you guys in, and we'll try to troubleshoot this thing pretty much real time. We just pushed it in the shop. Let me give it a crank. It's a 2004 Pontiac Sunfire with the famous 2.2. Well, infamous or famous, however you like to look at it. So, yes, 2.2. All right, watch it make a liar out of me. No start. So where should we start? I'll back up a little bit. We got the call and a customer stated that he drove it, parked it, went out the next morning and it would not start. I asked him if it sounded any different when he cranked it. He said it sounds like the motor is mechanically okay when he cranks it. It's turning over. He could hear the motor turning over. Then I asked him, do you hear the fuel pump kicking on? When you first initially turn the key on, do you hear the sound of an electric motor? And he says, no, I do not. And even better if you have somebody go back by the filler neck and just listen close when you cycle that key after it sits for a little bit or while you're cranking it, and tell me if you hear any noises. Shortly later, texted me back, no, we hear nothing. So I'm assuming, but we want to roll everything out and make sure that is the case. Hopefully with you by the back of the car, I could turn the key on, and this is what I was hoping they would hear, or hear something. You hear nothing, right? But now when I come up front, next to the fuse and relay center, listen when I turn the key on. Hear that click? Comes on for like 5 seconds and then turns off. I'll do it again. Ready? Turn the key off. Key's on. And then it times out and clicks off. That to me sounds like the fuel pump relay is working. However, now we have to start digging in deeper. So now you might be like, well, how does that justify just going right after the fuel supply system? Because we're missing one of two things, and that's either fuel or spark and compression. But it sounds like it has compression. So I don't hear that fuel pump kicking on. Unless it's a super quiet fuel pump, then I'll eat this one. All right, so now we're just gonna check the fuel pressure. Now I could pop the intake open, spray something or another inside that intake, see if it starts, make sure mechanically the engine's okay, make sure it has spark. However, then I'll get some criticism that I sprayed something into a plastic manifold, which you probably have a good point. One thing you could do is get yourself a rag if you're on the side of the road, just in case if there is fuel pressure, you'll know it. And there's a little Schrader valve here. We could take and push that in. And as you can see, I have no pressure, nothing, nada. So that is where we'll be hooking up the fuel pressure gauge. I don't know where my 90 went. Just snuck her in there. Okay, now I'm gonna cycle the key. Key's on. I'm gonna crank it. Anything? Nothing. Battery is getting a little weak, so I'm gonna put the trickle charger on her. Nothing spectacular, but it doesn't have to be spectacular. We only wanna charge it up slowly. Okay, so next I'm gonna take you down to the fuse relay center. Right here's our fuel pump relay. So fuel pump relay should be the second one in right here. Tammy, can you turn the key on for me? What I want to do is actually hold this and feel if that is the relay that we're hearing. Yes, for certain. Key off. I can actually unplug it. Key on. Key off. There is one relay here firing, but notice how it doesn't turn off. Turn it off. Now listen to this relay when it's in. Turn it on. I can tell the control side of that relay is working. So if I was out in the field, I have an AC relay right next to it, right next to the fuel pump. Well, guess what? It's the same part number. So what I would do, I would swap Tronic. Oop. We really don't need the AC one in there, but we'll throw it in there. Alright, in case I just wanted to zoom you guys out, in case something happens. Because what if it is a control relay, right? Alright, turn the key on. Nothing. I hear it firing, I feel it firing, but there's nothing. So I'm going to get a test light. Okay, so now if you look at the side of the relay, there's like a little schematic on it. Now I'll bring up a picture for you to see it more clear. So essentially this is just an electromagnetic switch. So if you power up this coil, and the coil is energized off of 86 and 85, if you power up that coil, it'll pull that switch closed and complete the circuit between 30 and 87, right? And if we flip it over on the back side, all the pins, so 30 and 87, are across from each other, and 85 and 86 are in the opposite direction. I'm going to show you the control side, even though I know it's working. So 85 and 86 will be in this direction. Right, let me remove this relay so you can see where I'm at. Okay, so one side is going to be control positive and the other side will be negative. So turn the key on. You see how it timed out? Turn it off. Turn it on. Crank it. So you can see the fuel pump control is working, and I know I have a good ground as well. I can just hook this up to positive, confirm that. I know I'm good. As you can see, the ground is good. So we know the control side of the circuit is, the integrity is good, right? It was firing the relay, so we knew that already, but I just wanted to cover that with you. So we can do most of our troubleshooting right here at the relay. Let's jump over to the load side of the relay, which is 30 and 87, which would be in this direction. So I know from experience, the top right, once again, this is going to be your 12 volts. And then this is going to be the wire here that goes down to your fuel pump. So I'm going to have Tammy turn the key on. So right there showing us that we have 12 volts, and it's, you know, to light up this filament is a pretty solid 12 volts because we're putting a little bit of load on that circuit. So we verified we have power present with the key on, and we verified that our control side of the circuit is good as well. So if our contacts were good inside that relay, it should be closing the contacts between these two, 30 and 87, and that should give us power down to our fuel pump. So what else can I check here at this relay center? I could check the resistance on that fuel pump to see if the winding, see if it's seeing the fuel pump back there. And how would I do that? So let's set the meter up to check for resistance, right? So the fuel pump's looking for power and ground for it to run, correct? So one side of the winding is already hooked up to ground, and we're just waiting to apply power, as long as our ground's good back at the pump. So what I'm going to do to see if it's seeing the windings of that pump is simply go from our supply wire, this is the fuel pump supply wire, to a known good ground, which I'm going to go right to the battery. And that should, it's like putting the windings of that motor between these two leads. And we should read the resistance of those windings. .4, 1.6, 1.5. It's kind of all over the place. What I think I'm going to do now is, we know 30 and 87. We're going to take and put a fuse jumper between the two, and that should power that. Well, as soon as we turn the key on, we get power here. It should put power right down to that fuel pump. And then we'll put an amp clamp on it and see if we have any kind of amp reading. These pins fit these terminals perfect, so I'm not spreading nothing. I'm just simply jumping the two out, and I don't hear the fuel pump running. Confirm that I have power on both sides. As you can see, I do. So I should have 12 volts going back to that fuel pump. DC amps. And as you can see, we are drawing no current. There's no load on that circuit right now. I could take and leave this jumper in place, raise the vehicle up, and confirm that we have power present on the back side. However, I'm going to do it a little different, because once it's up in the air, I'll be able to just leave it up in the air. So I'm going to command the relay on with the scan tool. However, I just wanted to show you how you could do this just by using basic tools. So I just want to make that clear. The next step, if you don't have the scan tool with bidirectional, you could just simply leave this jumper wire in place. But we're going to take and remove this. We're going to put our relays back in. So we know we have control. I'm going to get the vehicle ready to pick up, and then we can turn the fuel pump on and off safely from under the vehicle as we do some more tests. Now that the vehicle's up in the air, if you go to the right hand side, just in front of the axle, you'll see right where those two plugs are at. Well, the one to the right is the fuel pump control, and we'll go take a look. Okay, so now we have a closer look at this plug. You see that this one goes back here to your solenoid, and this one here goes above the fuel tank to your fuel pump sending unit. Looking at the schematic, we know that this gray wire is our fuel pump supply. So that's what's putting the power to the fuel pump. Now we could back probe that. However, we can also simply check it with a test light. We know it's the second wire up from the bottom. So if we take and we unplug this, good time to take a look at the terminals while we're here. We know that this gray one, the heavier conductor, it's another way to tell. Second one up from the bottom on the right. Get our test light, find a good ground, turn it on. On. Alright, everything's working good. We have power present. You know I can't finish this test without my homemade 194. So looking at the schematic, we've also learned that the black wire, not the black and white tracer, but the black wire is our ground for the fuel pump. With my homemade jobber, since it has a small alligator clip on it, we could be very careful here. Hook it up to our top lead, like so. Now, if we take and touch this on the fuel pump side, since we're energized, you see it illuminates the bulb, and this is putting a nice load onto that circuit, so we're checking the integrity as well at this point. Alright, Tammy, turn the fuel pump on and off, please. Turn it off. Turn it on. Perfect. Everything's working good back to here. When I plug it in, turn it on, we are not hearing any activity on that fuel pump. Just like when we were up top and I jumped out the load side of that relay. Okay, let's just take that tape off. Pull that loom back a little bit and take our gray wire. Okay, turn it on. That fuel pump ain't drawing any kind of amperage. So most likely the thing is open circuit for the most part. Probably uses a brush style pump. We could dissect it later, but that fuel pump is not even trying at this point. It's time to drop this tank. I got a video out there on a Chevy Cavalier that's pretty much identical to replacing the fuel pump on this vehicle. So I'm going to jump in there, essentially just unplug the connector, take off that hose clamp there, a couple of evaporation hoses to fuel line up there on a fuel filter. Okay. There's one more up top next to that rusted brake line that we got to pull off. And then once everything is unhooked, we got a couple strap bolts. Follow that strap up on the back. And the top there, that'd be the right side. And on this side, we're gonna have to drop the exhaust a little bit, so I'm gonna have to cut their coat hanger and drop this exhaust down. And then there's a little heat shield. We're gonna have to pop that rivet, and also maybe that one over there. But once we pop this one, you can usually manipulate that out of your way for the most part. Okay, so now we have the tank out. I have it up on the cart. I'm gonna take and blow everything off with air. Okay, now we're gonna take and knock this retaining collar off. Pretty much locks her in place. Sometimes you just bounce around. There she goes. All right, all these lines will be hooked up to this, so we might as well take and pop them right now. This will not. Just gonna need something to dump this into. Oh, that's what I was worried about. Sometimes you just can't help it. Here, bring that pan over here for me. Oh, yeah. Everything looks good here at the tank. So. They said it was for this model? Mm-hmm. See if we could figure out why it was $200 cheaper, right?
Right, yeah.
You said it had some good reviews to it?
Yeah, people were saying it worked fine.
That's all that matters.
I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, if it was only like $30 cheaper, I just went to AutoZone.
Right.
Yeah. It's like $210 at AutoZone and $65 online.
It. Put the back up first and then
Because that's what I was afraid of when we pulled it out. I was afraid of gas dumping on it all over.
Maybe this is a bad idea. Put it right
Keep
there.
it right here.
then walk back with it.
You have it recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do a picture of that. If you guys sit down, so here, I gotta put these lines up over.
Yep.
That's cool. Part of the
Here.
Part of the car.
straight up. Can you hold up on that? Because it's gonna shake in the.
Right here.
Some days I do, some days I don't. I was doing 50 pound pulses. My
Just watch your eyes.
shoulders are a little sore.
That's gonna be noises. I guess it was probably making some noise before, right?
Yeah, it was making a little bit. It's making a lot of noise, but it was hanging. And
Want to just turn the key on for me?
mm-hmm.
Let's see if you can hear the pump. It's always the first step. Oh yeah, I could hear that pump running. You hear that, Shane?
Mm-hmm.
You hear that pump running?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got fuel pressure already.
I never noticed that sound before.
No, until
Someone tells you about it, yeah.
Yeah. That was like one of the first things I asked you, right? Do you hear that noise?
Yeah, the hum, yeah.
Turn the key on for me again. Yeah. I'd say it's right around, I don't know, 58. I haven't looked up the specs, but I could hear the fuel pressure regulator putting fuel back. So
It's all good.
if you turn it on, you can actually hear the sound of fluid. Turn the key on. Did you hear that?
Uh-huh.
Let me zoom in on that. All right, turn the key on. Four and a half amps. 4.55. Okay, turn it off. This is with a new fuel filter as well. Let's do the resistance check. I remember what I told you between load and ground. 64.8 K. Key on. Fantastic, yeah. Can I start it up?
Yeah, sure.